You ruin more with your tongue than with your mistakes. You destroy opportunities, respect, and peace, not because you were unworthy, but because you couldn't remain silent. You spoke too soon. You explained too much. You justified what needed no defense. And in doing so, your own mouth became your enemy. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote that the most dangerous weapon a man carries is not the sword, but his words. A single sentence can expose your fears. A single confession can reveal your weakness. A single moment of emotional eruption, and the world knows exactly where to strike. This, he warned, is how power collapses, not from external forces, but from the inside out. Your mouth becomes the gate through which your discipline escapes. And so we begin. Because if you wish to master life, to think, to rule, to endure, you must first master the tongue. The Stoics said it simply, better to trip with your feet than with your words. Let's see why. Introduction: the weight of silence. You've noticed it, haven't you? The moment after you speak, that sinking feeling in your chest when you realize you shouldn't have said that. It's a subtle pain, not the kind that screams, but the kind that whispers. You gave too much away. Because every time you speak without awareness, you trade power for comfort. You reveal your emotions in exchange for brief relief. You expose your plans to feel temporarily understood. That is how ordinary people live, by emptying their inner fortress to whoever knocks loudest. But a Stoic knows better. A Stoic understands that silence is not weakness, it's warfare. Silence confuses the impulsive. It frustrates the arrogant. It terrifies the manipulative. Because when you refuse to explain yourself, people lose control of you. And when you learn to control your tongue, you learn to command your world. In this silence lies a strange kind of freedom, one Machiavelli understood from the cruel theater of politics, and one the Stoics mastered through the battlefield of the mind. It is the freedom of inner strength, the kind that no one can manipulate, because no one truly knows what you're thinking. So let's enter the 10 situations when your own mouth betrays you, and the silent wisdom that could have saved you. Situation 1. When you justify yourself. It begins innocently. Someone misunderstands you, and immediately you feel the need to explain, to make them see your side, to defend your name, your reputation, your purity of intention. But every explanation weakens you, because the truth does not need defense. Machiavelli observed that a powerful man never wastes energy explaining himself to those who have already judged him. Why? Because explanation is a form of submission, a confession that you need approval. And approval, my friend, is a chain. The moment you start defending yourself, you give your accuser the power to define you. A Stoic remains still. He knows that misunderstanding is the price of independence. He would rather be wrongly accused and remain silent than be proven innocent but emotionally enslaved. So the next time you feel that pull to explain, pause. Remember, silence speaks louder than your defense. Let your character defend you, not your mouth. The strong man doesn't chase understanding. He radiates it through his actions. When you justify yourself, your mouth betrays your strength. Situation 2. When you reveal your plans too early. Ambition dies when it becomes conversation. You think you're sharing your vision, but what you're really doing is releasing its energy into the air. Words are not neutral, they are leaks. The moment you speak of your plans, you allow doubt, envy, and interference to enter. Machiavelli warned rulers to conceal their intentions as nature hides her mysteries. And the Stoics, centuries earlier, said, "Let deeds speak, not words." Every unfinished dream you expose becomes vulnerable. The people who smile when you share your plans are not always allies. Some listen just to predict your next move, to disarm you before you act. So build in silence. Let your results appear like a storm from nowhere. By the time they ask what you were doing, it will already be too late for them to stop you. The man who talks too much about his future rarely sees it realized, because he's already felt the reward in his mouth instead of earning it through action. The wise remain hungry, private, patient. Every word you say about your plans is a drop of fuel stolen from your own fire. When you speak too soon, your mouth betrays your destiny.
Situation 3. When you speak in anger. No storm destroys faster than the one that leaves your mouth when you're angry. Anger is a form of temporary madness, and words spoken in that state are weapons you forge against yourself. You know that moment, when the pulse rises, when the words sharpen themselves in your mind, waiting to be thrown. In that moment, you are not speaking, your emotions are. Machiavelli understood that anger reveals the cracks in your armor. To an enemy, your emotional outburst is a map. It tells them where to strike, what provokes you, how to make you unravel. Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is more destructive than any enemy." The Stoic does not let his emotions speak for him. He endures, observes, breathes, because he knows that silence during provocation is not cowardice, it's control. When you respond with calm, you unnerve your enemy. When you stay silent, they have nothing to work with. And when you walk away without a word, you take their power with you. So remember, silence is not emptiness, it is discipline disguised as stillness. When you speak in anger, your mouth betrays your peace. Situation 4. When comfort makes you overshare. There is a peculiar thing that happens when life gets comfortable. Your guard drops. You talk more. You trust easily. You begin to believe that every ear is safe, that every listener is loyal. But comfort is the most deceptive of all enemies, because when you feel safe, you stop protecting your inner fortress. The great downfall of powerful minds begins not in war, but in peace. When everything feels calm, when people seem kind, that's when your vigilance fades. You begin to confess what should have remained unspoken. Your dreams, your fears, your grudges, your memories. You call it honesty, but often it is just emotional weakness dressed as connection. Machiavelli warned rulers against familiarity. He said that the moment a prince becomes too familiar with his subjects, he loses the aura of respect. The same applies to us. When you talk too freely, you invite the world to forget your boundaries. A Stoic remains cordial but never exposed, warm but never loose. He can be kind without opening his heart to those who have not earned that privilege. So remember, comfort is not an excuse for exposure. True peace does not mean lowering your walls. It means being strong enough not to need them lowered. When you overshare in moments of comfort, your mouth betrays your vigilance. Situation 5. When you expose your pain to the wrong people. You will feel pain. That is inevitable. But the mistake most people make is not the pain itself, it's the audience they choose to share it with. Pain, when spoken to the wrong person, becomes entertainment. The world doesn't always listen to heal you. Sometimes it listens to study you, to see how deep your wounds run, how loud your heart bleeds. Machiavelli said, "Never reveal your wounds to those who can use them against you." And the Stoics echoed, "Suffer quietly. What is external cannot harm your soul unless you let it." To speak of pain is human, but to speak of it wisely, that is divine. When you pour your sorrows into unworthy ears, you give away your dignity for sympathy. But sympathy is not strength. It is sugar that dissolves in the rain of hardship. And when you run to tell your story too soon, you rob yourself of the chance to process it. Learn this: silence heals faster than words. Let your suffering mature in solitude, like iron hardening in the fire. When you finally speak, your words will not be cries of weakness, they will be lessons of power. When you reveal your pain to those who haven't earned your trust, your mouth betrays your soul. And situation 6, when you joke too much. Laughter has its place, but so does gravity. And those who hide behind constant humor often reveal their deepest insecurities. You've seen it. The person who jokes about everything, even about themselves, thinking it shows confidence. But Machiavelli would call it what it is, a strategy of the weak disguised as charm. Because in a world of wolves, self-deprecating humor doesn't make you safe. It makes you the easiest to mock when you're not in the room. The Stoics believed in serenity, not constant solemnity, but awareness. Marcus Aurelius said, "The mind takes the color of its thoughts." If you fill your speech with mockery and noise, your soul will soon reflect it. A well-timed joke is a tool. Constant joking is an escape. And every escape is a confession that reality feels too heavy to face. The powerful learn to let silence do the smiling. You don't have to make everyone laugh. You don't have to prove you're easygoing. You only have to be still enough that people feel your composure even when you say nothing. So remember, those who joke too much are rarely taken seriously when it matters. If every moment is laughter, none of it carries weight. When you joke too much, your mouth betrays your depth.
Situation 7. When you try to appear wise. This betrayal is the most subtle and the most dangerous. It happens not out of ignorance, but out of pride. When you begin to know a little, when you start to read philosophy, when people start calling you deep, you fall into a new kind of trap, the urge to sound wise. You begin quoting Stoics, citing Machiavelli, lecturing others. And slowly, your wisdom becomes performance. But the Stoics warned, wisdom that needs to be shown is not yet wisdom. True mastery hides itself. The wisest man in the room often speaks the least, not because he is afraid, but because he has already conquered the need to appear intelligent. Machiavelli said that a ruler should always seem less knowing than he is, for mystery amplifies authority. Likewise, you do not need to impress anyone with what you've read. You only need to embody it so deeply that others feel it, even when you are silent. When you try to sound wise, you drain the power from your insights. You begin to serve your ego instead of truth. So remember this: silence sharpens the blade of intellect. Speech dulls it through constant use. When you try to appear wise, your mouth betrays your humility, and humility is the crown of all wisdom.
The next betrayals are darker. They go beyond speech. They reach into identity. They reveal how your mouth can betray your loyalty, your vision, even your destiny. Situation 8. When you betray your loyalty. There comes a time when silence is not just power, it is loyalty. And the moment you speak of another person's secret, their flaw, or their struggle, you don't just betray them, you betray your own code. You've seen it, the person who whispers behind a friend's back, the one who trades secrets to earn trust in another circle. They think it makes them clever, they think it shows adaptability, but what it truly shows is poverty of spirit. Machiavelli, the master of manipulation, understood this irony. The man who talks too much about his allies will soon have none. Even he, a man who studied deceit, knew the value of controlled speech. Because the moment you open your mouth to expose someone, you declare to the world that you can be bought with attention. You teach people that your tongue has no loyalty, that under pressure you will speak. A Stoic does not gossip. He does not indulge in casual betrayal disguised as storytelling. He knows that loyalty is not proven when it's easy, but when silence costs him comfort. So remember this. Even if the world burns with rumor, you do not add fuel. Your silence is your oath. When you speak ill of those who once trusted you, your mouth betrays your honor. Situation 9. When you betray your higher self. Sometimes the mouth doesn't betray others, it betrays you. You do it when you say, "I can't do this," when you speak defeat into existence, when you joke about your failure so that it hurts less. Every time you speak as if you are smaller than you are, you train your mind to believe it. The Stoics believed that language shapes the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." But Machiavelli, ever pragmatic, saw how rulers used speech to shape their reality. He knew that men become what they repeatedly declare. The king who calls himself weak soon loses his throne, not by war, but by conviction. Every word you utter is a command your mind obeys. So when you keep saying, "I'm tired, I'm broken, I'm not good enough," your soul listens. It begins to sculpt itself around those phrases, like iron bending to the mold of your words. You think you're being honest about your weakness, but you're actually making it permanent. A Stoic doesn't deny pain, but he refuses to give it power through speech. He does not name his despair, he observes it. He does not declare his limits, he tests them. Your mouth can either be your servant or your tyrant. When you speak against your own potential, your mouth betrays your future. Situation 10. When you betray your silence itself. This is the final betrayal, the deepest one, the one few notice until it's too late. It's when you lose your relationship with silence. At first, you talk to fill awkward moments. Then you talk to feel alive. Soon, you talk because you can't bear your own thoughts. And eventually, silence becomes your enemy, not because it hurts, but because it reveals. You can't sit still. You can't stop scrolling. You can't go an hour without noise. Your mouth becomes the tool of distraction, constant chatter to drown the discomfort of being alone with your mind. You talk to avoid the words and feelings that lie beneath the surface, waiting to be heard.
Machiavelli observed that rulers who cannot endure solitude soon depend on the crowd, and dependency is death to power. The Stoics said the same. To be silent is to possess oneself. The tragedy of our time is that we mistake silence for emptiness, but silence is not emptiness. It is clarity. It is where the weak meet themselves and the strong forge themselves. Every philosopher, every sage, every emperor who found peace had to pass through the desert of silence, and so must you. When you betray silence, you betray the source of your power. You become addicted to sound, to being heard, to being seen, and you forget the sacred art of simply being. A Stoic does not fill silence, he listens to it, because inside that stillness, the truth finally speaks, not from the mouth, but from the soul. When you lose that, you lose everything. When you speak just to avoid feeling, your mouth betrays your spirit. Conclusion: the return to silence. Machiavelli taught us how speech reveals power. The Stoics taught us how silence preserves it, and between the two lies the hidden law of mastery. What you don't say defines you more than what you do. Think about every moment you regretted in life. Wasn't it followed by words? Think about every opportunity lost. Didn't it vanish after something you said? Your downfall was never what others knew, it was what you gave them to use. We live in an age that glorifies expression and mocks restraint. People call silence weakness, mystery manipulation, and patience outdated. But the ancients knew better. They understood that silence is not absence, it is preparation. Not emptiness, but concentration. A man who controls his mouth controls his fate. He speaks when necessary, and even then, he measures each word as if it were gold. He listens more than he speaks, observes more than he reacts, and acts more than he announces. When you learn that level of restraint, life changes. People stop being able to predict you. Your energy stops leaking, and your presence begins to feel heavy, magnetic, unshakable. That is what the Stoics meant by fortitude, the quiet power that cannot be provoked. That is what Machiavelli admired, the calm cruelty of those who never speak more than needed. So remember this final rule. Every time you feel the urge to speak, ask, is this for control or for release? If it's for release, stay silent, because release is temporary, but control is forever. Your mouth can be your greatest weapon or your most loyal betrayer. Use it wisely, for once your words are released, they no longer belong to you, but your silence always will.